I don't know who it is. Right, so we are recording for the purpose of the video. The video will go on to our YouTube page that Kaylee and I have. What I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do the whole thing straight away, okay, because it'll take forever. So we're going to split it up. So this is a technique that I like to use, but it's not something that you guys need to do yourselves. Okay, I'm going to talk you through different techniques of weight removal, weight building, different techniques of graduation, layering, different shapes. This is where we combine everything that we've done over the last couple of weeks into our work. Okay, so I have broken this haircut down into a load of little boxes, and I'll explain those boxes now. So I have in the base, I'm going to right and left hand side, and then I've got two little boxes underneath my central point, two boxes on the opposite side, and a box in my part, on my fringe area. Okay, so primarily this gives me an option. I've got an idea of what I want to do and what I want the haircut to look like, but I don't know fully what it's going to look like. When we do creative hair, for me, just to show the video of what we're doing, for myself, I like to keep a little bit of leeway. So things can change, things can move. Somebody might have a bit of a jumpiness to the parting when the parting does start to move or move about. So, or you take the nape too short. So primarily, it gives us a little bit of a safe approach to doing haircuts. So asymmetric can be anything. It can be something like this, where you've got your shorter side, and the fringe coming down into the look, which is similar to what I'm doing today. This can be asymmetric in the internal looks. You can have asymmetricity in your internal shape and a bit of disconnection. So utilise this connection to be something quite sweet, quite cute, with a little bit of something coming over the front. Okay. When you look to go creative, this is also asymmetric because you've just got one side longer than the other. So asymmetric doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be mad creative or mad sort of jazzy. But we are level 3. We want to push forward to get something quite creative as much as we possibly can. Make sense? Yeah? So it doesn't have to be mad. This is also asymmetric because her length on this side is sat here, sits around about here. I remember when that was cut. It's a very basic asymmetricity. Internally, she'll have disconnection. This is crazy. This is beautiful, but there's some loads of different things going on in there. So we'll get onto that in a couple of weeks' time. You can also do stuff like this, which is very classic, very salon friendly, which is your little round line with some little bits of asymmetric disconnection in there. You've also got a little bit more of an asymmetricity on a bob. So again, they've just left one side longer than the other. Similarly here, there's some disconnection internally, and this has a disconnected fringe area and an asymmetric fringe. So it hasn't got to be mad creative. One thing I will say is, as we said with the disconnection rule, of every area of disconnection has to have an area of connection. Your asymmetricity, make sure it's enough. Okay, if you just do one little log of disconnection that's about ½ an inch longer, it's going to look like you're sort of lopsided or you haven't done your hair very well. Okay, exactly. You've got to be able to see the difference, which is absolutely crucial. Which for me, if I'm completely honest, this one here, this is an old Zoom photo. I don't like that. It just looks a little bit messy, doesn't it? It looks like it's not been finished for me. If you look closely, it looks great in the photo. But if you look closely, there's a lot of graduation on there, and this side's just a little bit longer than that side. So it looks a bit unfinished to me, or a little bit like you just got a bit sick of it at the end and just hacked it off. This also, I don't like myself. It's a personal preference thing. I don't like that short one side, very heavy on the other side. I think it's ugly as a haircut goes. I don't like the way that technique works, but that's my personal preference. I say every single time before we start a video or before I've done any of my videos on lockdown that you might not like what I do. It's my view. It's my look. This is level 3. Go crazy if you want to go crazy. If you want to go a little bit softer, go softer. It's as long as you've got an explanation for how you want to work your shape. Make sense? Yeah? So it's not for me to say to you guys that's wrong or right, as long as you've got the technique. So I'm going to start in my back sections here, and I'm going to combine 3 or 4 classic techniques to create something quite creative. And all creative hair is connecting classic techniques. So I'm going to work in the base a very soft little graduation, something quite tight into the nape, and build up my shape. So instead of working from my occipital bone, a couple of weeks ago I had told you guys, break the rules as soon as you know them, yeah? Or the rules are there to be broken. People say, oh, learn them before you break them. I disagree, break them straight away. This is an easy way to work your graduation. If you're running behind in salon, or you want something a little bit softer with a little bit less of a bob, we're gonna run just triangular lines all the way into our top shape. Yeah? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So with our line work, all of our shape is going to come back to our previous section, okay? So we're gradually building up a little bit of stability around our occipital bone, and my elevation is going to come in somewhere around here, okay? So I want my shape to be nice and light. What would happen if I came a bit lower? What would happen? Yeah, absolutely. So if we came low, it would be a little bit too heavy. So I don't want it to be heavy. I want it to stay nice and light. So we're going to control our shape. So there's the sections in here. And my elevation is going to come high and then run nice and tight. So I want my expected fall to be somewhere about here. Make sense? Yeah? So then our over direction, back to the previous. So by drawing it out, as we say with our head sheets, we know where we're going with our shape. Now, as I say, you haven't got to do this. I don't want you fully feeling like you're going to copy what I'm doing or feel like you have to copy, but this is a way to connect technique, okay? So we're going to start in the nape. Hopefully you all can see. So section's nice and neat and tidy, and then we're just going to run our shape through. So I would be standing directly in the base or in the back, but because I'll be standing in your way, I'm going to stand a little to the left. But focus on where you're working. So everything you want to do is standing in the middle and then just over directing back into those previous sections just to flow that way. I also want to tuck myself in around the mastoid process bones, so just underneath the ears. Why? What's the difference from me doing our graduation where we over direct away? I'm going to step in and come and tuck in behind the ear. What's the difference going to be?
You don't create the length.
Yeah, I'm going to take my length high. So I want my length to sit up and have enough softness and enough creation in the base to be able to stack some length into the side or stack some weight into the side. Okay, so this is where we can be a little bit more leeway-ish with our footwork. Chances are, if you're doing a bob with graduation, you want to keep your bob line in there. So you put your bob line in and then you graduate. When we're doing our graduated bob, we can step to the left and tuck, because the graduated bob tucks high and tucks light. So then we run that line in and get something very creative. So if you want to look really good, if you ever get to the stage where you're on stage, this looks like I'm about to do something quite creative in it. It's classic work in a creative twist. Yeah? So just focus on the way you're working. Make your sections do the talking first of all, and you have people's attention. Yeah. So when you're on stage, don't keep it simple. Keep it simple, but make it look tricky. And you see how easy this one is. All right. So I'm going to start by tucking this base in nice and tight. So first section in and run, and secondly, tuck my shape. And I'm in a little bit left into the center of the head. And then again, I'm going to step round and come in here. But my elevation is going to be nice and high. Okay, because I want to keep it almost head hugging really, and just almost form a little bit more of a shape. Now, when you're graduating, don't comb underneath. So don't come in and comb under. Why? Anyone got any idea why? Huh? Yeah, you push the hair up. Yeah. So you're pulling the hair away from where it naturally falls. You want to push it into where it goes. Yeah? Excellent. I always say a lazy hairdresser comes from underneath. when they're working their graduation. So if we're tucking under and combing in, people get a little bit mad with it, and they're pulling the hair away from where the natural fall of the hair is. Okay. So assess where that goes, and then move on. So section number 2, we're going to do the same. So I'm going to lift this nice and high. Check my guide, over direct back to the previous, or back to section number 1. And now I'm tucking into the side. So you can see the difference where I start to come round. If you see on this side here, it'll be easier. My section's clean. We're up to where our occipital bone is now. So all of that time we'd waste on level 2 going through here, we've just cancelled that whole time out in like 2 minutes. Okay? So now, when we're in, hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Join us. So now, my elevation stays high. Go on, you go for it. It's only going to you guys. And where I work my bob with graduation, I'd be out here. Yeah. So as Jesse was saying, we keep control of that line. But now I'm going to step round to the right, or in theory, step round, moving her around. But I'm starting to tuck my fingertips into the masculine process bone behind the ear, so that we take all of that weight out of this line here, because I don't need that later. I'm going to do quite a jazzy little outline in there. Okay, so already I'm thinking about where we want to go when we're working creative. But if you guys want to do something where you're keeping one side very long and one side tucking it a little bit tighter, do a different technique. So you can tuck on one side, and then you can do your bob with graduation on the other side. Make sense? So then that's automatically from the back going to lift your hair up. One side's going to come higher, one side's going to stay low. And automatically from the word go, you're creating that difference. Yeah? I want mine to come up balanced, and then I'm going to hit my shape. So there's the difference in working from the very word go. Does that make sense? Any questions at all on that? Okay, good.
What do you mean the other way?
So if we're working asymmetric, we want one side high, one side low. Yeah, we can start that from in this position here, so from the very word go. Because the left-hand side, you could choose to have the left side longer. So you could over-direct back and do your classic graduated bob technique where you keep hold of your line in the base. Remember when we did those?
Yeah.
And then you could have your right side, you think, right, I want this to be high. So I want my left side long, right side high. So here, I'm doing my graduated bob on the left, and I'm going to do my bob with graduation on the right. So I'm going to step in, tuck that tight, and then we're going to have all of this coming to here. So my line essentially is going to lift up to here. Make sense? So it will make sense when we get through to it. So when we work in asymmetric looks, we start from the very beginning of your plan, which is why head sheets are crucial, which is why our sectioning down is crucial, that we can understand where we're going from the very start. Okay? I personally want these to both sit balanced in the back, and then I'm going to asymmetricity up in a bit. Don't know if that's a word. But again, I'm going to lift this high, find my guide. But as I say, this is my technique. You may want to do something similar, but change the way you work it. If you want to, it's completely up to you. Or just do a really classic bob, one side higher than the other, little fringe, perfect. Even a balanced bob and a little asymmetric fringe, excellent. I don't care what you do asymmetric-wise, because it's your technique. It's as long as you have an explanation for how you're doing it, and a plan and a roadmap, or head sheets of how you're going to work it, then nobody can say it's wrong. Because you are level 3, you're all qualified. Okay, so again, I'm going to step into the right, pick my guide, find my guide in here, and then start to step round the shape and start to tuck.
I don't like that bit, man. You've got to knock that out. Yeah. No, but I'm not talking to you on a professional working too much. I know, but you've got to.
You're going to cut yourself there.
It's not how it goes.
That's terrible. But to pause the video and cut it out. So, last piece. How are you all feeling with your cutting at the minute? Do you feel quite confident?
Yeah.
Yeah? Ish.
Techniques, but
Yeah, which is why, I mean, I'm not one for doing haircuts. I like techniques. So I'll show you different techniques to build weight, remove weight in a haircut of my choice, my little creation. But it's all good and well doing teaching you guys a long disconnection or a lob or a box ball. But you need to understand what goes into doing certain techniques, how you elevate, how you create shape, how you create your head shields to be able to do any haircut you want to do. If you, I always say it, but if you go and sit outside a salon like in Bethnal Green, for instance, you'll find a hairdressing salon there. You'll see the same haircut coming out time and time again. It'll either be a little bob, or it'll be long layers, or it'll be something a little gents cut. Nothing very groundbreaking, but if you're working around this area and you're up against other hairstylists, you also got to find out that they're going to do the same if they're working from home. I don't know who's looking to do a home hair business or something like that, or a mobile, but you will be better than them because you have the technique behind your work. So you're explaining the hair through when somebody else has just gone in and said, I'll just do a few layers. But you're going to explain what the layers do, what they do for the face shape, what they do for the body. Make sense? So that's how I don't like just doing singular haircuts and teaching you those. It's more about the background behind the techniques. So with our graduated bob, what I'm doing here, you're going to see it happen here. So where I've not wanted to control my overall outline, in the base behind the ear, we're going to get a hole in there now. Because I'm stepping round and I'm not controlling where my lip is going. I am controlling it, but I'm not controlling the absolute overall outline. So I don't want to keep that weight in there. So last piece.
So what are you doing? You just bring it back to where it is naturally kind of full.
So I'm pulling it. I'm over directing because I'm still I want to build that triangular shape, and I'm still leaving my elevation because I want that graduation. But I'm not over directing it far enough like I would with my graduated bob. So if I wanted to keep a solid outline, I'd pull back to here and nice and low. But because I want it to be quite high and quite choppy, I want it higher, and I'm stepping round. Yeah, exactly. So if you see, it's nice to see it when the comb's in. So graduated bob, I'd be here. So I'm keeping all of this corner in here. Yeah. But because I want it round and I'm stepping round, I'm stepping to here, and I'm losing that corner. Yeah. So I'm going to create a hole in here, but that's fine. I want that because later I'm going to do my outline. So in here, if I do this last piece.
Is the elevation the same?
Elevation's the same, yeah. My elevation's staying up here at about 90, incomparable with the section piece that I'm on. So I want it to be quite steep. So if my expanded shape, if she were to get electrocuted, we're coming up here, as opposed to what would happen if we had a graduated bob, where my expanded shape would form in there. Yeah. So my elevation's higher, my weight line's going to be higher and softer. So before we even started thinking of using a razor or anything like that, I don't like a razor, as you know, but this is giving you that technique without using finishes or hacking into bits. Yeah. And the razor's just a useless way of playing. But now you can see the difference. So I've lost all of my length in there. Yeah. Whereas I would want my graduated bob to keep all of that weight. So where we were staying in the centre and pulling back to us, we're now controlling that shape. So, should I carry on, or would you rather wet your hands down, have a think about what you want to do? I'll blow dry this, then I'll do my next pieces. Up to you guys. You want to carry on? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I need to blow dry this really quickly. Take a 5-minute break. I'm going to blow dry this back bit, and I'll explain why. All right? Sorry. It'll only take 2 minutes. All right? For the purposes of the video, I'll blow dry this back in soak. There is, yeah. It's a nice haircut, but it's styled weird. You need that other side to see the asymmetry. It would have been better if they had had that down here, but yeah. What ones don't you like on there? Yeah. Yeah, sorry, wasn't it? Yeah. You like that? I don't know. What ones don't you like? Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I don't like that muffin.
The what?
I don't like that muffin.
The second from the left? You don't like that?
I love the strong
That's
line.
hard to do, man. What? You don't like the strong line?
I love the strong line.
Yeah. Me too, yeah. Yeah. This one?
It's alright if you're like walking down the factory.
Yeah.
It doesn't go down the road.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's different.
It's not the most flattering
Yeah, like, yeah.
for every day.
If you're walking like down the
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do like that one there. I like the one you said.
Yeah, that's flattering, isn't it? That's really good.
And this one is also like you said, it's like
There's nothing there, is it? Like if just someone was walked in with a bob and gone do something different, they've got some clippers and walked it up. There's no technique behind that. But then people might like that. It's personal preference. It's a big thing in hairdressing is suitability, but your own personal suitability.
You know that haircut, the beret?
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. So hard to do.
I did the session
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
So they did the demo of the haircut.
That was Mark Hayes.
Mark.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
What's that called? The session of the couple, the beret.
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 Like the French hat.
It's
No, the
lovely.
beret.
It's like it goes. It's like that.
Absolutely. Which is why level 3 hairdressing is so hard to work with students. And that's why I personally put photos out to see what people like and what you don't like. Because Christina, I know she's got a different style to me. Hayley's got a different style to me. And people like different things. So if you did something that was like this, but it was beautifully done, I can't say to you, I don't like that. Do it again because it's your style. So if he is sort of letting the lead shot in, level 2 is very much this is right, this is wrong. Level 3 is primarily what you enjoy doing and what you like.
My layering, I'm really good at layering. I don't know where to start. Like, I know I shouldn't really know that.
No, we'll do
You know, like,
it.
I do like long layers. Like, I'm not really sure. I'm really bad with that.
That's fine, we'll go
I did
through
my
it.
army yesterday, and I didn't like I was looking later, but I didn't mess it up. I did like know where to start. But I did a forward.
All good.
Yeah, but I'm not being out really good. It was nice.
Really?
No, not what was hurt. It was me. I feel like I didn't do a good job.
Okay. Don't worry. Just take practice. What
Like,
we're done.
yeah, like it isn't bad.
Yeah.
It's good. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah. Like, you feel like it's like Rob would have done it. It would have been like, you know what I mean?
No, I don't know. So I'm going to open this up to you guys actually and see what we want to do. What I should do. Let's get our creations going. Right? I'm going to do my outline and then I'm going to see. We'll have a democratic time. Jesus, 11 o'clock. A democratic vote on where we go for next. Okay? Never done that before, so don't let me down. Level 3s, gather around if you would. I'm going to outline up. So, hang on, no. This is like a short grad, yeah, short graduate above. I call it a triangular graduation.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a name. You know whatever you want, really. Just wait till it's done, didn't they? Not very good. So I'm not going to do an outline personally. For outlines, we would have worked on these beforehand. So you will see that there's some certain areas of weakness. I think that is a weakness in there, but I intended it to be there, so now I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. So my shape here, I want this to be nice and balanced. So when we work our outlines, it is crucial you keep the head up at all times. Okay. You will have stylists telling you when you go into salon, oh, put the red forwards. What are you doing? Put the head forwards. When they walk away, put the head up. I promise you, because you're going to push the head forwards. You do a beautiful outline. The nape skin will stretch, and then you'll lift it up, and it will start to loosen, and then you've got to do it all over again. Okay. So primarily keep the head up at all times. When we're coming through, we want to use the points of our scissors and support your scissors with your fingers. Don't support your fingers that way because you put your fingers in the bottom. Have it on the base, all right, on the bridge. And I'm going to work something very, very Sassoon-y, being that I like strong outlines and that is my background. I'm just going to do it. All right, so I'm going to work from the center, make sure she is facing forwards the whole time, and we're going to use our mirrors and we're going to go in. So straight away, I'm going to work from a point down the base. What am I doing? Yes, that's what I planned on doing. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. Possibly. I am going to leave a point in the middle, yeah. So, as we were talking about earlier on, with one side heavier than the other, or one side asymmetric than the other from the very word go, we can start to leave our shape a little bit more. So I will come up high on one side and low on one side. Yeah, so my shape can come high and then this side can come a little bit of a curve, or no curve at all. Make sense? So we're starting with our graduation and running our shape. Use your mirrors at this point, okay? So your mirrors will show you things that you actually don't see yourself. So if we down, round, sweet. So second side's more difficult.
I'll get all the things
because I'll tell you the truth.
Whereabouts do you live?
People don't like the truth.
Oh my God, what is wrong with me? I swear, every time a new shop comes in, I think, is that it? I remember. Just say, I'm not telling you again.
Where's Tommy this week? Where's Tommy this week?
Oh, he's in there.
Oh, he's in there.
Yeah,
I'm getting with my class.
Oh.
What do we think? Am I balanced? No. I'm very off balance actually. No. But it's asymmetric, you can get away with it. See? Asymmetric haircuts, don't worry about it if you're off balance, because you could say, oh, I meant to do that.
But the people ask for this kind of.
We used to, yeah. In Uptown, we used to in Sassoon.
And do they like it?
Yeah, some people love it. You know, it's very rare that you'll get somebody saying they want full-on asymmetric haircut. You'll know the people that do. Generally, to be honest, it's elderly ladies and older ladies that like them, because they'll have. We had one lady who, weird, isn't it? We had one lady come in who had disconnection and a big purple streak in the front.
I've seen those.
She was great, and it looks fantastic. But people do want them. This cut here, I did this on Mary Quant for I was cutting her hair for a while. Does anyone know who she is? Mary Quant. She,
Mary.
in the 60s, she was fashion icon. Vidal did her hair, yeah. So she came on with Vidal in the 60s. I wasn't alive then, just to let you know. So I did it a few years later. But Mary was Mary Quant, Q-A-N-T. Yeah. The documentary.
What, you did her hair?
Yeah. Not in those photos, just in salon. More balanced? It's all right, isn't it? Better. So that's my graduation. Okay, so now I've got a bit of a baseline to be able to move on where I want to go next. And for that, I am going to open it up to the floor. Okay, so what section should we go for first? Which one of these two do we want to go? This side? Anna Maria has said, let's go. What should I do, Anna Maria? Where should I go with this? Should I keep this a bit longer or a bit shorter? Do we think? Shorter? Yeah? And how would you come and do it? What would you say we should work? How short would you like to go? Think of your bone structures, think of the opposite side and where we can go with a bit of length. How much shorter do you think we could possibly get?
I'm going to say you are.
As short as that short point is there.
As short as that short point?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. But then this side we're going to need to keep some length this side. Yeah? So if we're going short with this side, it's going to have to be short. Because this side's going to have to come up to something about here. Cheekbone. Okay, let's go for it. So we're going to go short and onto the cheekbone. Now I'm going to show you a technique in here which is called flat graduation. Okay, so this is where we start to focus solely on these things here. So we've done, what graduation have I done here? So I've got shorter in the back, longer into the front. What shape is that? Triangular, yeah? So I've gone from triangular graduation to push my weight into behind the ear and control that shape. Now we're going to work something called flat graduation. So that would be anything, probably here is flat graduation. So Sabrina's sort of wants us to do something similar to that, isn't it? So Anna Maria and Sabrina want to go short. Let's get something into her cheekbone. Flat graduation is definitely used in the orange one there because it's not sitting forwards, is it? It's not coming in and sitting forwards. It's not going back. It's just flat. Okay, so if someone's got some banging cheekbones and we want to drop our length onto there, we're going to work flat. So we're going to work horizontally, okay, and we're going to work our first section. I'm going to go for something
Woody, his
into about here. Okay, so Sabrina wants it on the cheekbone, Anna Maria wants it nice and short. So I'm already thinking into the future about my fringe work. This could look quite cool. We could have something quite blocky into it. So a 3-step down almost. Okay. So we're using disconnection, we're using asymmetricity, and we're working our shape. So for the purposes of the video, let's spin around a bit. So we want to have our first piece of flat graduation just cut in our fingers because we want to graduate that underneath. We want that slight tuck. So if I was to cut it in my comb, it would be too low on 0 degrees. We're not going to get that natural tuck. So in the fingers, 5 degrees of elevation-ish, depending on how much thick the fingers are, how we work our shape. So let's have that in there. And never be scared when you're working with thread hair because just explain it out. So yeah, I meant that. Sweet. Clean up underneath. So section number 2, we want to take a bit of weight out again. So take fine sections, working our way up, and I'm going to elevate just a little bit higher.
Oh, I went for
and again, into here.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're slightly graduating each section up as we go. So section 3, and work that down. So a little bit higher with my elevation because I want that shape to be nice and heavy.
Yeah, but
And last section, lift even higher. So we're still underneath our 90 degrees, but if she gets herself electrocuted, our shape is going to be a little bit flusher and a little bit more like that. Okay, so getting longer as we lift up into our shape, but maintaining our overall length, so that as we say, we've gone a little bit shorter, but our length in there, we now have enough length to be able to create something nice and clean onto the cheekbone when we blow dry. Personally, I dry every section as I go. It's a thing I like to do, but because we're all sitting here, I'm not going to bother doing that. So what I'm going to do with this box on the other side, let's go with what Mira was saying. You want to keep a bit more length to it on that onto the corner. Yeah. So onto the corner of the graduation. What technique could I use here? So I want that to just flow and fall in. To the front, okay, but that's going to give me something to light in the front. Okay, so a bit of forward graduation, almost, we could do. The difficulty with that is we've got to think of the front. So we want that strength in the front, okay? So if we're pulling things forwards, it's going to take the weight out. So if we forward graduate, we're going to get a bit too much of the softness. So you're going to go into somewhere like here, where you've got that softness, which is beautiful. Nice work, but I think for what's going to be best is if we go for something a little bit stronger like that. So that's my overall aim, okay? So instead of working round, what could we do? What? Square. So another flat graduation, yeah? Or we could also triangular graduation. Completely up to you guys. What do we think? What should we do? Square? Let's go. Okay. So if we go square again, we now want to work our shape nice and flat. So we've just changed up our shape again. So if we were going for something really heavy in the front, we wanted that triangular look to come down with a triangulated it. But now we're going to go square, so we're going to leave it nice and flush and nice and square. But a similar technique, so head is up, down to our shape, and run it through. See what I mean? Everything we do is all classic work. It's taking this, our fundamentals, and just pushing it a little bit more. Okay? So we've just gone from working triangly into two flat sides, or two square graduated or flat graduated side pieces. It's easy, isn't it? It's nothing to be scared of. Again, now we're just going to lift. So we're flowing a different form of weight into this side piece. Here. Take off the corner. And then last piece from here, nice and elevated to connect with our triangular graduation in the back. As we say, we are disconnecting pieces, so we've disconnected that bottom bit, but every area of disconnection has an area of connection. So we've disconnected and then connected. Make sense? So in here, when this hair moves and swings, you're not going to get a different form of swing. It's all going to still sit really nicely and still sit and correlate with the back and to the front. But we've got our disconnection in there as well. Yeah, so we're down flat and then we come up and just lift and twist slightly. So you get that sort of ping in the middle, okay? Otherwise it would just be a block of flat and a block of triangle and it doesn't have that connectivity, yeah? So now we can see our asymmetric form building. Sweet, we've done what we needed to do. Now for these top two pieces. Now have a think about these. Okay. But if we connect it with the back and go short to long, this is going to fall across the top of that. Yeah, this is now our feature. The fringe will be the feature. This is something that we've got to think very heavily about because it's the top piece. It's our weight band. Okay, so where does our weight want to fall? Where do we want our weight to fall? Is the question. Do we layer it down and take the bulk out from the top? But is that then going to go and be a little bit too soft and too choppy? Is that going against what we're looking for? Or do we just over direct down, increase the bottom piece, increase the technique, from the base, have the smoothness, and then work some more magic in the fringe. Do you think? Completely up to you guys. We could layer it and see what happens, or we could go straight down and have a look at it. Yeah? You would layer it? I'm going to put it straight down. Personal preference. It's good. If you want to go and layer it down, layer it down. The difficulty with your layering is that you've still got to think of this back piece here. So that's going to be high. You're going to layer that down, and you're going to have this all. It's all going to be a little bit more choppy and a little bit soft, which is actually beautiful. So it's going to look something a little bit more like that. Yeah. So you're thinking of where we go and what we do. Next week we're going to do some little triangles and see what triangles do to really push weight and push length off the certain areas. You go short to long from the point of the triangle to the width, and you get all this disconnection and all this texture, which is what's happened in this one here and that one there that we just saw through with Jesse. So again, I'm going to work this down. We can layer this down a little bit if we want to. So continue our elevation in here. So our elevation is going to now start to lift. Excellent. Thank you. Sorry, you didn't need to get that. Okay, let's layer it down. So I'm now coming away a little bit more weighty. So onto the 90 degrees. And just running that shape. Any questions?
Listen, do you want to be a visual person? My mum says to me the other day, when you can write
I have a question. You said you were kind of going to do this,
Oh, that's not
but this is more layered. That's more like box and straight.
It is, yeah. So we've changed halfway through. We've changed. It's not a case of something where we can just say, oh, I'm going to do this and then stick with it. Things change when you're going through a haircut. So because we decided to take this side so short and then decided to work this side square, we had to change. Yeah, but it's just, this whole thing is just to show you guys that it doesn't matter what you do or what decision you make, you can change your mind and move on from it, because there's no rules really. It is creative hair, and we are going to work creatively to work something nice. So what we've just done there, in a sense, is create something that I didn't even think about in here. That the way the first section lay here, we've now got ourselves a piece of disconnection in here. Yeah. So once we've blow dried, we're going to get that sharp line, the sharp graduation, and then our layering coming up and hitting that point. So it's just become something that I didn't even know I could do.
Say if you want to do that sharp, we could just bring it down straight.
All down to your point, yeah. And just done a little bit of flat graduation, almost a tiny bit of flat grad, because you still want to get that nice tuck. But if you pull it all down with no elevation, it's gonna start sticking out a bit. So just lifting into about here and here and here, so that you create that slight weight and the slight tuck into the hair. Yeah, so flat graduation's got me out of jail so many times. It is probably one of the best things to know and to use, because it's easy. You just lift, keep your shape low, lift everything up, and you're just giving it that natural bevel. But it's beautiful when it's done so simply. And again, here, I'll show you what I mean. So, fringe out, keep it nice and low. So this would be when we're working something with that more blocky look, and we want to keep our shape a bit lower. So we'll come in and just graduate the underneath. Because we are elevating it away, the only reason we're graduating is because we have elevation. So we're back to our fundamental here. We're keeping it nice and low down to the shape. And again, push it back up. And then again, I want this to now connect in with the back of my shape, so I'm just over directing slightly away, and then run my line a little bit lower.
paying for it. I don't know, you don't use cash then, it's not.
Elevation and run my line. So, take yourselves off, start your work. I'm going to blow dry it, and then we'll do the fringe. Okay. Have a think of what you want to do. Write a little head sheet on the mirror. I'll get you some pens. Have a think of something you want to do. If you want to just do a nice little dinky bob, but just do a little bit higher on one side, we'll do a fringe later. Section, if you want a fringe, do that. So section your fringe off, we do it later, okay? And I will show you fringes in about 10 minutes, okay? If you want to take a ciggy break, take a ciggy break. That's absolutely fine. But have a think of where we're going with our cuts. And if it changes, don't worry about it. It will change, we just build it later. All right? Make sense? Mind you don't slip over. Very slippy. You mean, are they all on iTech? I don't know. I don't think they're all on iTech. I'm pretty sure that's. Are you on iTech?
What are you gonna do, mate?
I don't know.
I don't know, you know. That's your line. I don't know, you know.
Where's Amanda?
She's coming at 1.
You know, I actually got here at 9:30.
I got a new phone.
Joking.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I had to go.
We'll have a coffee.
Where did you go?
I just sat down and I had a croissant.
Sorry, there's one last thing. Where did you get it from?
Oh, is this serial?
It looks different without the
Wipes, yeah. It's alright, you know.
Yeah.
Going through it all, yeah.
It's long, isn't it?
Yeah. Has to be done there, innit?
I know.
I like those pictures. Alright? Hello, oh, I didn't even see Smart. Hello, everyone. You alright?
For the purposes of the video, I'm going to be blow drying, so take a break. I'll speed this up in the edit. If I can't speed it up in the edit, I'm going to blow dry. What?
Charlie,
George. Charlie.
Charlie.
Charlie? Yeah.
Like, what's that?
Was it alright last week?
Yes. I was so happy when I walked in and I was so very
Huh? I did think. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Fine. That's my Thursday got additional.
I thought you'd done like niggles, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to see someone that Thursday and Friday.
I don't know why you weren't in on Thursday before, because the Bibles have been a small group for ages. Gather round for 2 minutes, a few words. Right, okay, so I think we've pretty much got something quite sick here. Yeah? So you can see our asymmetricity. we've got our flat graduation from triangular round our shape into something a little bit flat on the side, and we've got our little bit of movement and a little bit of asymmetricity. Now the fringe needs to be the focal point. So I wanted to do fringes with you guys today anyway. So following on from what we did 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about square fringe cut it round in the comb, round fringe cut it square on the face. But everything we do is going to be cut wet and long first of all. Who remembers why?
Yeah, when you're trying to do
Yes, and what was yours?
when you try
Oh, yeah, if you cut it too short, it'll bounce. What else? Even if you get it bang on point and you get it on the level you want, yeah, it's going to spring out because of our blow dry. So we're going to lift in. The bevel of the blow dry is going to kick the front. So when we cut the length up, it's going to go bomb into the shape when we cut it dry. So we want to cut it wet, long, and then lift it to dry straight, or lift it higher dry. Makes sense? I think it makes sense. So I'm going to split it into 2. And because I want this to be our final point of asymmetricity, I'm going to do this. Now, because I want this to be our final point of asymmetricity, I'm going to do something a little bit jazzy in the fringe and then fix it when we blow dry at the very end. Okay, so I want to go with something nice and low.
Remember
I reckon that haircut was too
Really?
that kind of like,
Do it?
no, but that kind of like sharp
Yeah.
with the,
Yeah, definitely. It's got a good jawline, good asymmetric. Yeah, I agree. From what I can see from us, but you know. So we're going to now go down. So I'm breaking my own rule there. So we're going to use our toes and come into the front. Okay. Push our head slightly back and start to work. So I'm going to leave it long. So I want something to be quite angled. Okay. So I'm not going to follow any of the rules that I did use or told you guys, but I'm going to follow the rule of keeping it long and running it in. Okay. So now I'm going to step to the right because I want to start coming round. You can either do this on the person's face or in your comb, completely up to you. And then run my line. Okay, and it's that easy when you're working with asymmetric fringes or disconnected fringes. It is that simple. So we keep it nice and long, and then when we decide to lift it up once it's dry, we can lift it up once it's dry. Okay, this second piece here, I want to create a little bit of graduation in there so that we get that nice tuck. So I am going to hold it with my fingers, but just elevate just off the point of the guest's nose. So we're going to run that shape down again and step to the left. Okay, so now I'm going to blow dry and then I'll show you the finished look. But it's that easy. But if you're cutting square fringes, cut it round on the face. If you're cutting a round fringe, cut it square in your comb. Okay, and you will be balanced all the time, I promise you.
That's what you think.
Good, lovely. Back to it. I'm going to pause, for purposes of the video, I'm going to pause and then get it back later. So now we have our shape, we're just going to run the fringe, okay? So we put the fringe in place, lift it up, and now I want to lift it higher, all right? So just for about a minute, I do apologize for getting you guys back over, but so we know where our point is here, and we know our point of contact is there. So I'm just going to come round and run myself. Fringe. Okay, yeah. So we create that shape, create that move, but the line is already there from where we were first looking to go. So now, just find our eye. If you can't get it, just lift it in, flatten it down. Make sense? Quite cool. So then we get that slight look. So we have our 3 points of disconnection, we have our 3 points of asymmetricity, and we have our shape just flowing the whole way around. So if it were me, to be honest, I'm going to lift that side a little bit higher. It's too low. So a little bit more. So it's good for somebody on stage walking down the street to look a little bit bonkers. But that is where asymmetricity can help you and make your work look really quite impressive. The good thing that we've done here today with all of you guys guiding where we go with the haircut, we've all gone quite, it's different, isn't it? We've got that difference in length, we've got the difference in shape, we've got the difference internally. So it doesn't look like I've just split or messed up. Asymmetricity, you have to have that difference in length. It doesn't have to be much, but don't go like a millimetre. It has to be enough. Okay? Good. Back to it. Wonderful. Thank you very much.